After watching season 2 of The Night Agent, a review of which is up on the channel by the way, I was still feeling like watching something spycraft related and decided to roll the dice on The Agency, a show about CIA agents in London starring Michael Fassbender, Jeffrey Wright, Jodie Turner-Smith, and Richard Gere. This is a show produced by George Clooney, so I must admit I was a bit cautious as to the quality going in, but I was pleasantly surprised. This will be a spoiler-free review, and I will stick to footage from the first episode because I actually recommend this show. The basic premise is that Michael Fassbender plays a CIA operative who has been in Ethiopia for the past 6 years and suddenly gets pulled out of deep cover with no time to prepare for his departure. He is pulled for bureaucratic reasons and not for his performance in the field, by the way. But the important part is that he was madly in love with Jodie Turner-Smith, and he's not happy about having to immediately return to his life in London. He sees divorced, he hasn't even seen his daughter for 6 years, plus he hates how the CIA is keeping tabs on him now that he is returned. Episode 1 is called The Bends, after the effects from coming up from a deep dive too quickly, and it's an incredibly appropriate title. Fassbender's codename Martian is clearly having a hard time letting go of his past alias as Paul, and he's really having a difficult time reintegrating into the life he once left behind. Matters are made worse when, upon returning to London, he sees a news broadcast from the university that Jodie Turner-Smith's character was going to work at has been bombed, and there have been casualties. Immediately after this, they're in the course of shutting down his Paul persona, and he sees an email from Turner-Smith's Dr. Sammy, saying that she still loves him from a couple months ago. Now, this makes him reach out to see if she is still alive, and wouldn't you know it, she is also in London for a semester abroad. But is this more than coincidence, and could she be counterintelligence? As this melodramatic story is running in the background, one of the CIA's assets codenamed Coyote in Belarus is arrested for a DUI and gets disappeared. Turns out he never took the alcohol interrogation class because he was in AA, and his handler didn't think it was necessary. So now everyone is in panic mode. Richard Gere as station chief and Jeffrey Wright as a second-in-command are scrambling to find his Coyote, as well as make sure his network of, agents and spies that he's established in Belarus are not compromised. Good thing that Fassbender is back and in top shape to help, right? There are 2 more stories we follow. Jeffrey Wright has a brother-in-law who's working on a super-secret op in Ukraine, and there's also a newly minted recruit named Danny who is working to infiltrate Iran through a visiting seismologist. Now, neither of these stories get very much to do until later in the season, which is fine. Just know that Danny's story in particular kind of drags on for far too long to get to the point. I'm sure her character will have more to do in season 2, but I really didn't think she needed as much time this season, especially considering her character is by far the most generic of the spy stories. I think I would have liked more time showing us some of the negative effects of Fassbender being pulled from deep cover, a little more in depth. I mean, they do a fine job of showing us him having the bends, so to speak, but when the whole crux of his character is his love for Dr. Samia, it would have been nice to understand it a bit more. You see, we're thrown in at the end of his 6 years with her, so from our point of view as the audience, the relationship starts at the end point. It's already over, and then it's told through some dialogue and flashbacks, which, it works for establishing our distrust of Sammy when she appears in London, but it fails to make us emotionally invested in the 6 previous years. With each episode being approximately an hour long, you could spend a little more time. You could find more time to get us to kind of swallow that emotional hook and some of that baggage that, Martian carries with him throughout the series. Would have really helped us to understand why he's going to such great lengths outside of the PTSD and the bends and, all those other things. It would have been nice to have a little more emotional connection to her. And when my only complaint is that I wish it had more character work and slightly less meandering script, that's pretty good. The acting from everyone, with the exception of Richard Gere at times, is pretty excellent. Fassbender and Wright are always delightful to watch, and them getting to tackle some of the twists and turns of the season together really kept me kind of excited and ready to see what was happening next. Again, no spoilers. The show is paced quite well, and you never really have to sit on any one mystery for too long because these characters are actually good at their jobs, which I appreciate because when you establish that the characters are competent, it allows you to introduce information you need because you believe these characters probably could have found it off screen while you were doing something else while doing character work. So most scenes either progress character, plot, or oftentimes both with very little in terms of dead space. It does become a bit of a soap opera later on, but, honestly, at that point, I was already kind of invested, so I just rolled with it. Coming off The Night Agent, The Agency felt like a massive improvement in spycraft genre. Much improved acting and pacing. The Belarus story is tense and feels like a love letter to Cold War style espionage projects, very low tech. The Sammy and Martian story is a bit of a mess, and I have my reservations for season 2 as I don't think they don't quite stick the landing this season, but I'll watch it. So yeah, I recommend The Agency. Way more bad than good. It's worth it for watching Fassbender alone. Dude kills it.